What's going on, everyone? Happy Friday. As you can see here beside me, we are looking at a pretty green day for the Bitcoin miners. We're going to go over some Bitcoin news today. We're going to look at Bitcoin's chart. I'm also going to go over some articles. There are many signs pointing to Bitcoin going on its next run, and it's only right around the corner. Now, let me start out with this. I'll let you guys screenshot this. This has all of the different Bitcoin miners publicly traded, their Bitcoin holdings. There might be some inaccuracies here. There might be some on the bottom of this list that in fact do hold some Bitcoin. So keep that in mind, but in general, this is the order of Bitcoin miners in relation to how much Bitcoin they hold. You'll see that Mara is at the top of the list by a mile, and I personally do think that some of the Bitcoin miners that hold the most Bitcoin, when Bitcoin goes on its next rally, these will benefit the most. But I'm quite happy to see something like a Bit Digital continuing to grow higher and higher on this list. I think mostly due to their AI growth, the fact that they could post some profitable quarters, they were able to actually hold on to some of that Bitcoin and continue rising up the ranks. And while some might not like the recent push into AI from some of these Bitcoin miners, I personally do like the diversification that it provides. And there's a lot of commentary from the Bitcoin miners that are AI related, so this might be biased. But AI right now is at a much better margin than Bitcoin mining. But this will obviously change when Bitcoin does rally. But when Bitcoin is stagnant, like what we have been seeing, the miners that are getting into AI, it does seem to be benefiting them. For instance, Iris Energy and Bit Digital both posted profitability pre-halving, while many other Bitcoin miners were unable to. And I think a lot of this is due to their recent venture into AI. And the Bitcoin miners are clearly waiting for Bitcoin to go on its next run. When Bitcoin does go back into its all-time highs and surpasses them, many of the Bitcoin miners on that list will be very profitable. And when Bitcoin goes on its next rally, this is when the miners will run. They've all been suppressed because of the halving, and they're really just waiting for Bitcoin to go on its next run, to stop this consolidation phase, to stop this sideways action. We want to see the hype enter back in. I do think the hype is right around the corner. These are the times you want to take advantage while retail is so bearish. While retail is uncertain if we're ever going to see a higher high again. Shib Marketing lead predicts when the Bitcoin bull run will begin. This article is interesting because it goes into past halvings, and I'll show you a little more detail there. But for starters, after the very first halving in 2012, the Bitcoin price would take almost a year before the reduction in supply volume triggered an uptrend. This result was a drawn-out bull market that pushed the Bitcoin price to new all-time highs. Then again in 2016, we saw a similar move, the next halving. The 2016 Bitcoin halving marked a shorter time frame before the bull run, right after the halving. But unlike the previous bull market that we saw in 2021, the 2016 bull rally took 6 months after the halving. Now, 2020, Bitcoin's price took right around 5 to 6 months after the halving to rally. And using this established time frame, it means that the Bitcoin bull run is just a couple of months based on past halvings. Using the average 6 months and the fact that the Bitcoin halving happened in April 2024, it stands to reason that the start of the next bull cycle will be right around October 2024. It could come in earlier, it could come in later. Keep in mind what's going on with Mt. Gox. This is something that we didn't really have to experience any other cycle. This large amount of potential sell pressure. The positive is the majority of it has been dispersed. What I'm saying is this could draw things out a bit, make it take a little bit longer, but also realize that this is the first cycle that we have spot Bitcoin ETF and all the buying pressure that surrounds it. And just like I kind of told you guys, there's all these different variables to consider, and every cycle won't play out the same. The Shib Marketing lead warns investors that this is not an exact science, obviously, given that other factors can affect the price. The market's influenced by many things: adoption, macro trends, sentiment, but the pattern is hard to ignore. And I will gladly show you that hard to ignore pattern. Well, this is just going over 20 and 2024, but let's look over all 4 halving years. What do we see? This is the halving year of 2012, 2016, 2020, and 2024. Each line represents one of those years. Every single time, except for this cycle because we haven't gotten there yet, every single time we do see a rally to end the year. Typically to prices we haven't seen that whole year, or to prices very close to those prices that we haven't seen for most of that year. And in some cases, a huge crazy rally where things just go absolutely parabolic. I think we will have something in between these. I do think by end of year, Bitcoin will have created a new all-time high. I could be wrong in that thinking, but I'll just put that prediction out there. Now, I did want to mention we had some job revision data. Of the job gains over the 12 months ending in March, we had a revision downward by 818,000. This is almost a third of the total new jobs it was revised down to, from 2.9 million new jobs to 2.1 million. To me, this is kind of setting the stage. This is laying the red carpet for Jerome Powell to start cutting rates. The market already expects it. The market expects either a 25 basis point or a 50 basis point cut, not a 0. We expect a cut. The market expects a cut. And the Jackson Hole meeting is today. I believe it's going on right now. I'll try to keep you guys updated on what's going on with it on my Discord. Here's another positive article. Bitcoin on-chain and derivatives data suggests market optimism. Crypto quant charts show that Bitcoin exchange reserves on centralized exchanges in August have fallen to a multi-year low. Since the end of July, Bitcoin supply on exchange has fallen from over 2.75 million to around 2.67 million. This is an 11% drop from the beginning of the year. And also the largest concentration of options are call contracts for 100,000 to 105,000 strike. And the Ethereum market is also very optimistic, with $4,000 strikes expiring in September and also 6,000 expiring in December. Now I did want to show you guys Bitcoin. We have just been in this kind of a sideways downwards consolidation. Oh wait, this is 2020. This is like the same time last cycle. What happened? Pretty much the same thing. Right around the same time, 2020, we saw this same pattern, this consolidation after halving, this bit of a slow period, this bit of boredom before we went on our next parabolic run to new all-time highs. If I'm wrong, but this is what I expect Bitcoin to do. We are going to chop around a little bit longer before we finally break out of this pattern, and we are not going to look back. If you follow past cycles, this is what to expect. But let me show you that again. The 2020 end of year consolidation we saw this sideways action. We finally broke out of these resistances, these previous prices. Once we broke out, we didn't look back. We continued our run. We went to insane levels. That's the euphoria I'm talking about. This is what we should get in 2025. Based on every past cycle, this year should end strong. On top of all of it, we have Mt. Gox nearly complete with the distributions. We have spot Bitcoin ETFs posting majority of inflows over the last couple of weeks. And we have more and more companies adopting this Bitcoin strategy, adding Bitcoin to their reserves, seeing Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation, a hedge against a weak economy. I want to go over one more thing. Henrik Zeberg expects Bitcoin to hit 115 or 120,000. And I want to show you one of his posts. Remember, in 2022 December, everybody was bearish. I was bullish. Sounds familiar. We were told that imminent crash was ahead of us, despite the fact the market bottomed out in October of 2022. Based on my business cycle model, I dismissed the call of recession, and I set my targets back then for various assets. The S&P 500, 61 to 6,300, which was 3,900 in December of 2022. The NASDAQ, 24 to 25,000, which was 11.5K in December of 2022. The Dow, 45K, was 33K in December of 2022. And Bitcoin, 115 to 120K, was 16,500 in December 2022, hit its low of like 15.5. I have stuck to the blow-off top call I made back then. I still do. Euphoria will develop in US markets. I said that before the final top, bears would become bulls, and that I would be ridiculed at the top of the blow-off top for my call for a major top and crash. Now, we are not at the top yet. Clearly, everyone isn't bullish. And you could look at months ago and everyone wasn't bullish. To me, retail is almost non-existent. Retail is the most bearish I have seen since back when Bitcoin was like $20,000. People are so bored. People are sick of Bitcoin basically just going sideways. People are questioning the cycle. They're wondering, why isn't it rallying? What am I missing? What you're missing is that Bitcoin has done this every cycle. Bitcoin has that slow period after the halving. You get that final little shakeout of the people that aren't sure that Bitcoin's going to go on that halving rally that it always goes on. So his previous call for Bitcoin was a $95,000 to $100,000 Bitcoin, and this call was made in December 29 of 2022. This was right around the bottom. So he did revise it to 115 to 120,000. I personally think that's very reasonable, and I do think Bitcoin, before it tops out, we will see a six-figure Bitcoin. I'm not sure how much higher than that. I do think some of the predictions like 500K, 300K, that might be a little too outlandish, but give it a few cycles and we will get there. And finally, CleanSpark. I do want to talk about them on the chart. If you look at this long-term fractal, we have basically a very similar setup in the last cycle. We had this long-term fractal. It kind of went on a huge rally, went down, retested. We saw this big correction, probably the same amount of fear we have right now, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of worry. And what did we go on to do? We went on to rally and we never looked back. Well, eventually, but on that cycle, we went on a crazy rally, and this pattern did kind of play out. This large broadening pattern. We're looking at, in my opinion, the same thing, and we will get our next pop, and it'll either find resistance on this line, or this line if things go really crazy. That's right, $68, I think it's possible. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed. But if things do go crazy, if you have a Bitcoin going into the 6 figures and beyond, that means many of these Bitcoin miners are going to be posting consistent profitability, meaning they're going to add to their balance sheet, meaning as a company they're going to look more and more solid, meaning they will deserve a higher share price. Not to mention the insane level of hype. These companies will get insanely overvalued in my opinion, and that will be our time to exit sometime in late 2025, unless you're looking multiple years out. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think Bitcoin is approaching its next rally, or is it going to play out totally different this time? History is on our side, but you never know. If I had to make a bet, and I'm betting on the cycle playing out. I am betting that Bitcoin will go on to run. We will get that supply shock, and everyone will be piling into Bitcoin. Now, I know I didn't cover it, but also we had some news that Bitcoin transactions like 9x'd recently. Something for another video, but thanks as always for watching, guys. Hopefully you have a good weekend, and I'll see you on the next one.